Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody. Nice to see you all. Welcome, welcome. Everybody is coming online. Welcome, everybody. Thank you all for coming to the second installment of the Freedom series with Mrs. Mutiva. Hello, hi everybody. You all should be able to use the chat. So before we get started, I'll just let you all know how this works. This is a Zoom webinar. That means that you won't automatically be able to unmute yourself. However, if you do want to speak, you are welcome to do so. Just put your hand up and I will click a button that allows you to be able to speak. As well, there is a question and answer section at the bottom of your screen. And if you can't automatically see it, all I'm asking you to do is click more at the bottom of your screen and then click Q&A. You can ask your questions there. You can type it in and we will see your questions come up so that we can answer them one at a time. So you can start asking questions from the beginning. You don't have to wait until the end. There is no section where it's going to take the whole panelist time and then you can ask your questions. You can ask your questions while we have this interview. Everybody, I'd like
Mhm.
to introduce to you and welcome Mrs. Mutiva, Mrs. Karen Mutiva. She is a longtime Abacus member and a master trader. She has been with the A for a very long time, right? At least 5 years.
Mhm.
At least
Yeah.
5 years. And she is like all of our other guests on the Freedom series, free. So we're going to talk to her tonight and discover what it means to be free and what it is to live a lifestyle where you value and cherish freedom. And if you do follow her on Facebook, you will see that she values boundaries. Boundaries are a blessing, and it's a blessing to us as well. So I'm really excited to hear from you, Mrs. Karen, about how you introduced boundaries into your life. But before we get into that, I would like to ask you for your origin story. Could you please tell us how you came upon the abacus? Where did you come from? What your origin is like? What everything is all about when it comes to trading? How did you become a trader? How did that happen?
Wow. Let's see, where do I start? First, I want to say thank you for inviting me as a guest. Thank you,
Thank you for
everyone,
coming.
for attending and all of your support. Um, as Mrs. Ortiz mentioned, I'm Karen Mutiva. I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland. And I always jokingly say I was like a poster child for the Matrix. I didn't have a real exciting, adventurous childhood. I was raised in a two parent home. I had an older brother and sister. I was the youngest. And I was raised in a very religious home, which to me, the main benefit of that is that I was taught faith at a very early age. So I was taught how to believe before I saw things come to fruition. And that has helped me throughout my life. But also because I had been raised in a very religious home, I was very sheltered and very naive when it came to the real world. And, I followed the matrix path. I went to school, I got a good job. I thought everything was supposed to go okay. But because of my naivete, I made some very bad decisions when it came to relationships and men, which led to me being a single parent for many years. And it was like I was like the quintessential single parent. I struggled. It was hard. Um, Even though I made a decent salary, raising children on one salary, it was difficult. It was a struggle. So I was able to make ends meet, but I couldn't do anything extra without always having a hustle and a grind on the side. Um, but over time, through the bad relationships, the struggling parenthood, I had a bad marriage in between there, a short one, and I found myself in a deep depression and um, kind of lost, very unhappy, um, and I found my way into therapy, which helped me to begin to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And fortunately, I have always been a very resourceful person. So that helped me to be able to rebuild my life into what I wanted it to be. And before I actually found the Abakuas, I began doing that. I had paid off debt. Part of that backstory is I actually had filed bankruptcy twice. Ooh. Uh,
Wow, wow.
but I was able to still rebuild after that. And clear up, the lingering debt, rebuild my life and purchase a home and all that kind of stuff and begin to put a substantial savings. And I was setting my life up in a way that I could exit the matrix before I even found the Abakuas, by clearing up the debt and all of that kind of stuff. And I had a plan in place. But in the meantime, I met my wonderful husband, Mr. Mutiva. And shortly after that is when I was introduced to the Abakuas through Facebook. And, the rest is history. My life has forever been changed by those two things.
It was a beautiful discovery that you've made because people may not know, but I am a trader today because of you. People
Mhm.
don't know this, but Mrs. Motivo is my mentor, is my Abacus mentor. And because she was willing to share about her willingness to trade on her page and her willingness about to learn about the stock market, because that's how I got in. She was talking about the signature Abacus core course, which introduced me to the world of investing and in the world of American finance. I was a new immigrant to this country at that time in the midst of COVID, and my husband and I, we were lost financially, right? We were there through the goodwill and love of our family and friends. And believe me, we needed to figure out a way out. So, because of Mrs. Motiva, she was willing and she was bringing in people into the Abacus, teaching them about investing through the Abacus core. So, she was a mentor of mine as well as of many others. So, your story, it touches my heart. And I'm so grateful that because of all of that experience in your life, and even despite the negative parts or the perceived negative parts, you still pushed through. And not just that, but you decided to pull others up with you. And because of you, we're having this conversation today. So thank you for that. I want to thank you in front of everybody because people don't
Right.
know, but because of you, Mrs. Karen, it's the only reason why my family has a different future ahead, and our future is not struggle, that we could provide something for our son. So when you all learn to trade, everybody, when you learn how to trade and you find this life-changing different different way of being, don't be afraid to share it and to show it, because you don't know,
Mhm.
you could be the answer to somebody's prayers. You just don't know. You have no idea how far your willingness to share can take you. It's because of you that we're having this discussion today, so thank you. I
My
wanted
pleasure.
to touch on what you were saying. You said that you grew up in the faith. You grew up in a very religious household, and because of your sheltering, you had some experiences that made you make mistakes. How has that affected the way you parent today? You have two children, yes, and they're grown, but
Mhm.
has your sheltered experience affected the way that you parent others?
Mhm. Absolutely. I definitely did not shelter my children like I was sheltered.
Mhm.
I allowed them to experience things that I wasn't allowed to experience as a child. And I definitely just was more open with
Yes.
them, even about, sexual topics and things. I said, I want you to learn it from somebody that knows, not your friends who don't know anything.
Yes.
So even today, they're like, oh my God, mom, I don't want to talk about it. I'm like, no, we need to talk about it. So yeah.
But and then they may plug their ears, but you know even more than they do that that has made like a big difference, like a real difference for them,
Mhm,
because you know the consequences of not being open. I think we already have
mhm,
some questions in the question and answer section. Guys, when you all scroll to the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little question mark Q&A, and if you don't see it, click the three dots that says more and then click on Q&A so that you can ask questions like everybody else who's doing. So here's the question, the first question that we have. How
mhm.
long did it take you to quit your job after starting trading?
Well, honestly, I probably quit my job. about a year
Mm-hmm.
after starting trading.
Wow,
And honestly, at
that's
that
fast.
point, yeah, at that point, I'll be honest, I was not making enough to really support myself, but I had gotten married. And because I had, was rebuilding my life, I paid off debt, and that made it easier for Mr. Mutiva to say, "It's okay, quit your job," because I didn't put any, debt on him.
Yeah.
And he allowed me to do that. He's so supportive. He's wonderful. You can tell I love him. But he allowing me to do that, within, I would say, another year after that, that I began to more consistently, make money and really begin to consider myself to be free.
So I'm going to tack on a question that others may be wondering that just tacking it onto that. So yeah, you have a very supportive spouse. I've had the privilege of chatting with Mr. Mutiva on a chat or Zoom call, something we were doing, and he was so supportive of your ventures and your activities. But not everybody has a supportive spouse. Do you have any advice for people who have spouses who may be doubtful about their intention to learn how to trade? Do you have any advice for people who have significant others who are like, I think you're in a scam, or I think you're making a mistake thinking about quitting your job? What would you say to
Mhm.
people who are in that position?
Um, I'll be honest with Mr. Mutiva is very supportive, but in the beginning, I do believe he thought that it might be a scam as
Wow.
well. But the proof was in the pudding. When he actually saw me to begin to really make money,
Hmm.
it made a believer out of him. But I learned by his responses. I didn't talk to him a whole lot about what I was learning and doing. He went through the core, but when it came to, the options trading and stuff, I didn't show him a lot. I didn't talk to him a lot because I didn't believe, I didn't want to hear the negativity. So,
So that's
so that,
what you would say to others who are it's just like kind of keep it more to your chest, go through it first, and then
hmm
seeing is believing for some spouses as well. Now,
yes.
you did mention something about, the situation of being a single mother and then you remarried. I would
hmm
like to ask you questions about what does it mean to have to leave a relationship and what kind of timing do you believe is important to get back into a relationship if that's your desire. But before that, I want to ask another question. People have been asking, what are your spiritual beliefs now? And does it negatively or positively affect your trading?
Um, I consider myself to be more spiritual than religious now,
Mhm.
but I believe that background has definitely helped my trading because, like I said, I definitely believe and practice faith, and I believe that I believe in God. I believe that and that higher power and higher being, and that He helps me. That God helps me in my trading. He helps to open up my mind to to be able to trade successfully. Mhm.
Understood, understood. And do you think that people who may be having what do you call it, maybe a crisis of faith right now, do you think that is better that they just change the way they think, or should they stick to what they're doing? What context do you think is best that somebody should question whether their faith is actually getting in their way or helping them along?
Hmm,
That
that's a
was
good
a good
question.
question.
I'm not quite sure how to answer that. If someone feels like their faith might be getting in the way,
Hmm.
I would say you'd have to go with your own instinct and your
Hmm.
priorities per se. I know for a lot of people, though, your faith and beliefs is a huge priority.
Hmm.
But I don't believe that God wants any of us to suffer, even though we know there are always going to be poor people. There are always going to be people that suffer. If he's the father that has the cat a thousand cattles and all this kind of the wealth to be able to give to us. Why wouldn't he want us to have that? Every father wants to see their children blessed and successful. So I guess I just wouldn't understand someone's faith getting in the way of that.
I understand. That makes
Mhm,
sense to me as well. And people can probably argue in many different directions about that, but your viewpoint has helped us as well. And I think that the mindset of abundance it begins with belief, right? And we talk about
mhm,
belief in the Abakuas a lot. And belief is not necessarily religiously rooted, but your willingness to fashion something that you cannot as yet see is what makes us human as opposed to just another animal. That's everything.
mhm,
Everything that makes man man is his ability to conceptualize, to create, and to interface with the unseen, whether it is a creator, whether it is a concept of a creator, or whether if it's something that we're creating. The ability to interface with the unseen is the
mhm,
skill of belief and of creation. So
mhm,
I found that your response is very inspiring. So I hope that those who are having a crisis of faith or questioning their faith can know exactly what Mrs. Karen is saying. Basically, your behavior of belief will set you free regardless of what you focus on believing in. And
mhm,
I think that you have told us this when you were mentoring us in the very beginning. I don't know if you
mhm.
remember that, but you did. You did tell us
Oh, okay.
the habit of belief will set you free. Yes, yes, you did. And I have another question, a great one. It is, what has been your biggest challenge on your journey to becoming a trader?
Hmm. To becoming a trader or to becoming a successful trader?
That's a good question. Let's assume she means successful trader.
Okay. I think the biggest challenge for me was believing that I deserved it. I can remember Mr. T, at one time I was struggling because I would have these cycles where I would do very well and then I would struggle and then I would do very well and then I would struggle. And he would ask me, like, is anything going on? Are you sure? And I'd be like, nothing's going on. My life is fine. But through the mastermind, that really gave me the information to reflect on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it narrowed down to that I really didn't believe I deserved it. And some of that might go back to the religious upbringing because when I had my children, it was out of wedlock and I felt like God was punishing me for, sinning or whatever. But yeah, it took some work and some processing
Yes.
to realize and believe and really believe that I
Mm-hmm.
deserve it. Mhm.
How long did it take you to start believing that you deserved it?
I would say probably even a year after the mastermind, with going through it over and over again,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I really be like, this is, this struggle stuff is for the birds.
For the birds
There's
is putting it
nothing
lightly.
making me struggle but me. So stop it.
Okay, okay, I hear you. I hear you. That makes
Mhm.
perfect sense. So my next question to you, you're getting a lot of questions and answers in the chat. And guys, don't mind my background. Our son is stealing my set. So, right. Um, I have another question. Can you share any challenges that you've had with people? This is a good
Ooh.
one. What kind of challenges did you experience with people?
Oh, wow. A lot. I think my biggest challenge, and like you said, I talk a lot about boundaries because that
Mm-hmm.
became so important to me for my growth and my freedom and staying free, not just financially, but mentally. Um, because everybody's not going to, believe in what you do or what you're doing and what you believe. And people in general tend to be very negative. And I don't think that they are necessarily intentionally being negative, but people are full of fear and they project those fears onto you if you let them. So I had to learn to stop letting them. And because I tend to be kind of a quiet natured person and I'm a good listener, so people would often want to dump stuff
Yes.
on me.
Yes.
And
That's
I realized that that was affecting my energy. And I couldn't keep doing that. I read somewhere somebody was like, well, would you allow me to come and dump my trash into your living room?
good point.
And of course, the answer is no. So you can't allow people to come and dump all of their stuff onto you. You have to set those boundaries. Have learned very well how to cut off conversations
Hmm.
and to move on or change the subject or just walk away. Um, Thanks to Mr. T and the mastermind.
That that's a big one. The mastermind has really changed a lot of us. But
Yes.
I have this very important question for you based on what you've been teaching online. How does somebody know that they're a people pleaser? Because sometimes people may not be sweet and soft and meek, but they might still be people pleasers. How does
Mhm.
somebody know when they have a people pleasing problem and how do they fix that?
I think you have to be very self aware, first off, and pay attention to your energy. How do you feel when, someone asks you to do something? Because if you don't really want to do it, if you're in that people pleasing mode, it's going to make you feel some kind of way. You're
Yeah.
going to feel a little icky. Um, and you just have to be self aware and reflect on that. And if you find yourself, you know, feeling icky and realize that you're people pleasing,
Yes.
institute some boundaries
Mm.
and say,
How
I would love to help you, but I can't do that right now.
it makes perfect sense. How do people get out of that issue with that icky feeling without hating themselves? Because I know that if somebody's a chronic people pleaser and they continuously betray themselves, there's a kind of a potential self-loathing that starts to bubble up. What would you say
Mhm.
to somebody who struggles with that?
That's a whole nother process that I went through as well as those feelings of guilt,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it comes to relatives.
Oh,
Um, yes,
oh, relatives. You said the magic word.
yes.
Relatives.
But it's a process again. You can know in your mind this is what I should do. You can
Yes.
practice this is what I'm going to say. But it's a
Yes.
process. It's not always going to happen right the first time. But when they
Mhm.
come back the second time, you're a little better prepared. When they come back the third time, you're a little better prepared each time.
So it's a process. So you have to
Mhm.
practice enforcing your boundaries and all that's all part of the process then.
Yes.
People are asking questions. I think the Q&A is filling up, so let me address some of it.
Mhm.
Sister Monica is asking, has anyone gotten free in your that you've mentored, I suppose? She's asking, has anyone you've mentored gotten free from just trading shares, not options? And how much do you need to invest to become free?
I am not aware of anyone that I personally mentored just from trading hard shares.
Hmm.
Not at this point, not yet.
Is it
And
possible?
I definitely believe it's possible.
Hmm.
When I look at, my own experience, most of a lot of my recent success has been from managing my own retirement account, and I
Mm,
only do hard shares in that account. I don't
right.
do options in that, and um, yeah, my retirement's going to be looking pretty nice.
Congratulations. I want to let everybody know hard shares basically means the stocks that we're talking about. So, for example, if you have Coca-Cola stocks are just pieces of the Coca-Cola company that you can buy and sell. on an exchange. It's kind of like a grocery of different companies, and you can buy a piece, you can buy a bigger piece, you can buy a smaller piece. But the smallest piece available is one share. And you can buy
Mhm.
that for a certain price and then you can sell it for a higher price. And then you make some money. That's how you make money from hard shares. So the way to get free from hard shares is basically to buy and sell lots of those little pieces of different companies at the right time. And that can actually set you free. So,
Mhm.
Sister Monica's question was whether anybody actually was able to quit their job, beginning to end, just buying and selling little pieces of companies. And if the price of a company goes down and you the worth of what you bought is less, you don't have to sell it for less. You just hold on to it until it becomes more. So that's the beauty
Mhm.
of hard shares, and that's how it works. And options contracts are just a different way to trade on the stock market based on those same companies. But it has a little more risk, but also a bit more reward for the same investment. It's just more risk, of course. That's what you're paying in exchange for that higher amount of money that you can get at a time. So when we talk about hard shares and options, we talk about those two different ways to buy and sell things in order to make money. So
Mhm.
you have some
Thank you.
good questions here. Can you?
Well, I wanted to answer the
Yes.
second part of
Oh,
Mrs.
yes, yes.
Monica's question. She said, "How
Yes.
much do you need to get started?"
Yes.
A lot of times people think they need to start with a lot, but once you understand compounding, you
Oh, yeah.
understand that you do not need to necessarily start with a lot.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, you do
Mhm.
not. And how
Mhm.
about how much are you talking about? How much do students typically start with that are being mentored by you?
Our students start with $150.
Okay, simple as.
Mhm.
And that's
Yep.
very affordable. So it's not a lot. And we have seen people get free in less than a year with that same 150 without adding any more money. We have all been
Mhm.
able to witness that. So it's quite beautiful. You have some really good questions here.
Mhm.
Hold on. Let me click that as done. Can you share any challenges with people who are still stuck working a job? Do you have challenges with people who are still stuck working a job, Mrs. Mutiva?
Yes. Yes, and that is usually time, because, your day's eaten up between your commute and your work day, and then
Mhm.
if you have a family on top of it, there's not a lot of time left for, studying and learning and things of that nature. But I just encourage people, if you're really committed, if you really wanna change, and
Yeah.
I always say, if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you're gonna be willing to lose a little sleep for a little while
Yeah.
so that you can get ahead.
Yes. That
Mhm,
makes sense. And
mhm.
do you find that your relationship with people who are governed by their workday, it has changed, and how do you manage that type of relationship you may have with people who are stuck working all the time?
In the beginning, especially when I was still in Maryland, I live in Florida now,
Uh-huh.
it was hard because, I had this time to do stuff, but nobody to do it with.
Oh, that's a big
People
part
were
though.
working.
It caused a
I'm
lot
sorry.
of loneliness. How did you handle that?
I don't know. I think I just kind of adjusted to it. I'm more of a homebody anyway,
Yeah.
so I'm okay with being, at home by myself. Um, and thankfully, my husband, he will break me out of it because he likes to get out and about. So on the weekends, he's like, "No, we're not sitting in the house. We're going out. We're going to do stuff."
Yes.
So yeah, and coming to Florida, trying to meet people. It's more retired people here, so it's easier to find people to do stuff with, I think.
Yes, understood. So
Mhm.
that makes perfect sense. And it did. I think you're an introvert, are you?
Oh yeah.
Yes. Me
Oh
too.
yeah.
I think that might have made it a little easier, find because your response was so like such like, you know what, this isn't as bad as I thought. It's probably better that nobody could could be there to bother me. But you probably feel pretty good being an introvert where I mean, and you have your companion. That leads me to that next question. I'm going to interrupt the stream of questions to ask you a very important thing. Now, there are
Mhm.
people who have, once they experience the mastermind, this is very huge. Once you all experience the mastermind, you're going to question your relationships, not just your romantic relationships, but all of the relationships that you deal with, your family relationships, your relationships with your parents, and if you have a spouse or a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a common law husband or wife, however you call it, you are going to be analyzing that relationship because you're starting to see life in a different way. But the thing about it is, if you're going through the mastermind and nobody else is, you're going to start emotionally and mentally drifting away from people sometimes. And people, this is not to scare you all, but people have found it best to end the connections that they have had with other people because they have learned that what they're in is kind of holding them back. And it was kind of like a trauma bond. You know, you all know that term, right? Trauma bonding.
Mhm.
And so they're no longer willing to bond with people based on that type of dynamic. So, if this does happen, if somebody does find themselves feeling like they want out from a significant other relationship, even if they're children together, there's a loneliness that might come, all right?
Mhm.
And there's some people they like companionship. So they leave their companion and they want to have another companion, but they're learning how to trade. What advice do you have for somebody who might currently be experiencing some level of emotional loneliness when it comes to the lack of companionship and they're trying to learn how to trade to change their financial life? That's my question for you. Based on your experience, that you have actually left an old relationship and you found love very close to when you started to learn how to trade. How do you
Mhm.
recommend people navigate that?
Um, in retrospect, I would say if you're learning how to trade, don't let that be your focus. Deal with the loneliness however you have to deal with it until you have reached a level of success with your trading, and then explore dating or relationships because we know it can be very distracting.
Yes.
Hmm.
That's some tough advice because some people might say, I want them to come up with me. I want to do this journey together. I don't want to do this journey alone, all of this change alone. So what do you say to people like that who say something like that then? Let's say that's their retort to you. What do you
It
say?
might be possible. I mean, all things are possible, but I personally, like I said, in retrospect, if I had started the Abakuas first, I probably would have delayed dating and ultimately meeting Mr. Mutiva at the time
Why?
because I realized the amount of focus that's needed to be successful.
Right.
Hmm. And
Did
when,
it?
especially when you first start dating, you just want to be with the person all the time and up under them and ooh la la. And you can't do that and focus on trading.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I think people will convince themselves that they can do it, but I think I'm with Mrs. Karen in that it, it it's nothing wrong with loving somebody, but are you really willing to risk your freedom over your inability to wait? And if that person is really meant for you, can they not wait a year on you? That's a
Hmm.
good question. That's a good question to ask yourself, I would say. So if I were single, I would take Mrs. Karen's advice just simply because the effort required for a relationship is so high. We have a question from Mrs. Tangier. She has her hand up. Mrs. Tangier, you could now unmute yourself since you put your hand up. So we'd like to hear from you. Hello.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. I think it was an accident.
Well, now you're on the speaker. What's up? How are you?
I'm, I'm well, and I'm so grateful to listen to my coach, my mentor. Um,
Yeah.
Ms. Montiva is truly amazing.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
that. Thank you for that vote of confidence. It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. So Sister Tangia is another part of Mrs. Motiva's network, another person who she has helped bring up. I have more questions for you, Mrs. Motiva. So we'll be getting into the nitty-gritty now, huh? All right. So Sister Jonine is asking, how long have you been trading? I think that you answered that. You started the trading part in 2020,
I think about 2019,
2019.
2020, 2020-ish around then.
Right. And she's
Mhm.
also asked, how long did it take you to master the system?
Ooh, well, back in those days when I first started trading, we didn't have the DLTC.
Mm, true.
So it was for me anyway, more difficult to master.
Hmm.
I was very good at identifying good companies to trade for the
Yes.
day based on news and economics and all that kind of stuff, but actually trading them
Mhm.
was a struggle for me to master. DLTC changed everything. Everything. It made things so much simpler. We didn't
Yes.
have to do all this research in the morning like we
Yep.
used to. And, once I knew I could maintain that 90% or more accuracy, the
Yes.
money is inevitably going to come.
Yes, that's true.
Mhm.
That's true.
Mhm.
Sister Laura does ask a great question that goes right along with it. When you have losses, how do you deal with that?
Much better now. In the beginning, like everybody, and this was before the mastermind, in the beginning, it was tough. I would cry sometimes. I would be so frustrated. I would be angry with myself. I would go through a whole range of emotions. Um, but through growth and the mastermind, I accept that sometimes losses are just going to happen. Sometimes I'm just tired and I do dumb stuff that I know I shouldn't do, or, um, I'm tired, so I'm not looking at stuff accurately, and I have a loss that. But practicing risk management will
Yes.
keep you from getting all depressed and thinking about quitting and feeling like, oh, I'm never going to be able to do this. Risk management, so important.
Yes.
Mhm,
That's true. And risk
mhm,
management will save you, but when you do make a mistake, because you wouldn't hurt your
mhm,
entire account. You're absolutely
mhm.
right. So I see in these questions, it keeps going. Um, all right, so we've answered that one. Do you trade under an LLC for tax benefits? That's a good question. And I'm sure a lot of people are wondering the same.
That is a good question. Someone asked me recently about that, and I suggested they go talk to a tax person because everybody's situations differ. I
Mm-hmm.
do have a company, but I don't trade under that company. Just what I do personally. Hmm.
That's nice and clear. So
Hmm.
someone would like to ask, when you started trading, how much did your job interfere with you making successful trades? This is a good one.
Hmm. That is a good one. I think for me, at the time when I started trading, I was working at home.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a little more flexibility with my time, as long as I could get my work done and I didn't have any meetings and stuff. So it wasn't an issue for me personally.
Right.
Um, for the students that I work with, that still work and are trying to figure out how to do that, I always suggest, if you don't have that flexibility to get away for a little while, you can look at trading during your lunch break,
Yes.
or you can trade the pre-market or aftermarket.
Yes. For people who don't know, pre-market, it's based on New York time, okay? So that's Eastern Standard Time. Right now it is 7:39 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Pre-market opens at 4 a.m. this in this time zone, okay? And the main market opens at 9:30 a.m. So between 4 a.m. and 9:30 a.m., you could trade. And then post-market or aftermarket, that's from 4 p.m. all the way down to 8 p.m. And some
Mhm.
brokerages allow you to trade 24 hours, 5 days a week. So now we're no longer even limited by pre-market and aftermarket. Some brokerages like Robinhood and Webull, and I think Interactive Brokers allow you to trade all day, Monday to Friday. So the market would open on Sunday night, and then it will close Friday night, and it would be just open in that entire huge block. So there are always opportunities to trade regardless of your schedule. As long as you
Mhm.
have your eyes open, there's an opportunity to trade if you want to trade. So, my next question to you is, what about people who have not stopped working yet? How do they stay motivated and keep their trading level-headed?
Hmm. I think you got to have your why, your reason for doing it, and it has to
Right.
be more than about money. It
Right.
has to be deeper
Yeah.
to stay committed and work through the challenges.
What is your
Mhm.
why?
A legacy, a legacy. I want to be able to. I got started late, so I haven't been able to affect my children's lives like I want to yet.
Hmm.
But I know I'm definitely going to affect my grandchildren and their children's lives. Mhm.
What changes were you hoping to see in your children's lives that you are yet to see?
Oh, I would love to see them not have to work, not have to be in the matrix. It pains me sometimes to see what they're going through on their jobs and not be in a position to say, "Oh, just quit that job.
Right.
We'll figure something else out." Um, of course, I support them and help them where I can, but yeah, I can't tell them to quit yet. Mhm.
Is it that is it that they're just unwilling to learn to trade right now? Because that does lead me to Lena's question, have your husband and children learned to trade too, or are they interested? Do they even
Mhm.
care? Even though you can prove that trading works now, have you been able to influence their desire to trade?
No, honestly, my husband does invest. He
Hmm.
does invest in stocks and crypto. He does sports trading. Um, but my children, I had to basically make them do the Abacus core.
Hmm.
'Cause I told them, I'm not leaving you anything if you don't know what to do with it. You got to take this this class, and so
Right.
they did that part at least.
Hmm.
But they find it boring. I haven't figured out a way to make it interesting for them. I know even my nephew, I was trying to get him to learn how to trade, and he just was so adamant that he didn't have time and wasn't interested. And he got his wife at the time to take the Abacus core class.
Right.
And then some years later, I find out he's trading with some other guru.
Wow.
And that's why I was like, okay, wow, at least you're trading though. I'm
Right.
happy for that because, this could really change your life. And so I don't know. I think my children might need to hear it from somebody else, maybe somebody younger, somebody that they're more interested in hearing from. Sometimes people just have to hear it from somebody else. They can't hear it from me.
Right. What is that?
Mhm.
What do you think is the cause of the fact that it's just because it's you that they're resistant or reluctant?
Mm, sometimes moms, you're just like, oh, there she goes again.
Is it like a familiarity breeds ingratitude
Probably.
type of thing?
Yeah.
What do you have to say to parents who may be also trying to get their children to trade? Like, what do you have any advice for them?
Just encourage them as much as you can if they aren't trading to at least invest.
Right.
I did get my children to do that. They work with Amazon, and so I said you need to take, if nothing more than $20 out of every paycheck and
Right.
invest. So
Okay.
they at least do that much.
That makes
And
sense.
I just feel like depending on the age of your children, the younger, the better, the easier
Right.
it is to get them started, get it ingrained in them. It's something that they don't know anything different if you're teaching them
Yes.
from a younger age.
That's true. So what do
Mhm.
you think is the difference? Why do you think you can influence your grandchildren differently as opposed to your children? Because they're also
Oh,
close
because
to you as
they're at
well.
that young age. Yeah, they're like 5 and 8, I believe. And so, they're at the age now. I was actually working on creating some books, some children's
Oh,
books for
oh
them to teach them about the stock market and at their level.
yeah. Right. That makes sense. That makes sense to me. I have a
Mhm.
quick question for you here. Can you give an example of what sequential logic means to you?
Hmm. Sequential logic is, basically just doing things and thinking things through in order. Um, I've done videos recently about how even I used to want to skip from step A to Z. You want to eat a salad and wake up the next day with abs, is a six pack. It just doesn't happen like that.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And I think that there's a second half to this question. So they're very interested in, taking a deep dive into what sequential logic means. So they want to get your advice on what they should start doing, what they should stop doing, and what they should continue doing.
In regards to
Building sequential logic, I assume.
just in general.
Yes.
Well, I think you have to sit down and have some self-awareness, some self-assessment about what it is that you want.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to, through trading, get to $100,000, you have to break down what you have, see how to compound that to get to your $100,000 in those steps. And they have calculators to help you do that.
Right. Yeah,
Mhm.
the compounding calculator is like such an inspiring thing to use because you can see over time
Mhm.
how your money will just build and build and build. And it's
Mhm.
like the numbers that you come up with, they're never what you expect. They're huge,
Yes.
huge,
Yeah.
huge amounts of numbers. And then you're like, really? Just 150, like 1% a day will end up like that over 2 years? Yeah. Use the
Mhm.
compound interest calculator, folks. If you all are going to do the DLTC5 and you've never done this before, go to Google or ChatGPT, whatever. Just figure out how to calculate compound interest over time. So take like $150 and increase it by 1% a day on weekdays and see where you reach after 1 year and then see where you reach after 2 years. Your mind will be blown. Your mind will be
Mhm.
blown. I dare you to go and try that. And what you will see will inspire you to push forward because believe me, if you could do it one day and then you can do it the next day and you can do it the next day and you could do that for months straight, you can do that for 12 months straight. And you will
Mhm.
reach to a place where you never thought you could arrive because just like Mrs. Karen said, compounding, that's a whole other world. It's a whole
Mhm.
other world. So uh, m- um, I think that we already answered this question about family members trading live. I'm still going through some questions. All right. Talina is asking if you're on the West Coast, does that mean you would start trading at 6 a.m. if we start live trading at 9 a.m.? Well, yeah, if you want to join us online, I mean that's a pretty straightforward answer. Am I wrong? Am I correct, Mrs. Karen?
You're correct. Yes.
Right. So you could
Mhm.
start at 6 a.m., but like we said, you can do it at any time of the day. You can do it 24 hours if that is what you so choose, depending on the brokerage that you use, which is also up to you. And a good question. How do you continue to push through promoting yourself on social media, especially at the beginning of your journey? This is a great question. I guess they're
Mhm.
following you on social media. For those of you all who don't know, Mrs. Karen has a very dynamic and beautiful social media page, and every day she posts lots of inspiration and information about building your boundaries, what it's like being free, and developing yourself beyond just the cash. So you all should follow her on Facebook. But they've asked, how do you continue to push through promoting yourself on social media, especially in the beginning of your journey? I am assuming that when people just start their journey, they feel a certain way about talking about learning how to trade. What's your advice
Mhm.
to them?
My advice would be to, I always say, when I first started talking about trading, it wasn't because I was actually trying to sell a class. The first person that signed up was my hair stylist. I was sitting in her chair. I was excited about what I was learning, so I was talking about it. I wasn't trying to sell her on anything. And she was like, "Well, how can I get in that class?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. Let me ask Mr. C." And so, I messaged him and she signed up like
Oh, wow.
very soon after.
Wow.
So, just like we talk about a restaurant that we find that we like, a movie, a book, just talk about the stock market like that.
Yes. Oh,
You don't have
yes.
to necessarily go with the intent of trying to sign people up. If you're excited about it and you're very interested in it, a lot of times people will want to do it.
Yes, I
based off
understand.
of that energy.
I have some more questions for you based on
Hmm.
the interesting questions now are going to dive into money. But before I start those questions, I want to share something with everybody. And this is a surprise to you too, Mrs. Mutiva. Based on our interactions and my interactions with other people in the Abakuas, we have a new item. Y'all see what this is?
Ooh, what is that?
This is called the Airwork Conversational Card Deck. It's Abacus, and it will be ready
Ooh,
for the Abacus family and for the general public before Christmas. So
yeah.
these are 366 prompts based on your conversations that you all are going to have with your family. So just like you all are here having conversations with Mrs. Mutiva, and just like you all are asking Mrs. Mutiva all of these fantastic questions, when you all open this glorious, beautiful box, you all are going to have 366 questions that you will sit with your family every single day of the year and ask them about their thoughts on wealth.
I love it.
They are based on different themes. So in New Beginnings, you can ask them if money could talk, what would it say about how you treat it? These questions create conversations just like we're having tonight. And it is
Mm.
ready. They will be ready before Christmas and it's now open for pre-orders. So please do not forget that we're going into a new territory. 2026 is going to be so amazing. You have
Yes.
366 cards like this, and you network leaders as well can distribute it to your students. It's called the air work, the work for heirs, people who are going to inherit wealth. It's the
I love it.
366 conversational card deck. Just like we're having discussions in the Freedom series, now you can have discussions with the rest of your family for the rest of the year. Why is this important? Because changing minds is going to change your life. If you want people to come along the ride with you, if you want people who have results like Mrs. Karen, if you want people who have the influence in your life to also be pulled up with you, have the discussions with them. And if you don't know what to say, these cards will help you figure out what to say every single day. 366 different mind-boggling questions that you're going to sit and have these discussions about. And Mrs. Karen, I'm going to ask you some questions from here. Now,
Uh-oh.
you ready? You ready?
Yes.
All right, pick a card, any card. Pick a card. We're going to have a question from here. Which one do you
The
want? Just name the
one,
color.
the orange and pinkish one.
This one
That one.
here? All
Yes.
right. All right, let's ask you this question. All right. Ooh, this one is good. All right, so you all could see my question? Let's see if
I
we could.
can't see it.
Hold on, hold on. What does respect look like when talking about money with somebody who has less than you?
Huh.
That's
That's
a
a
good
very good
question, right?
question.
Right? 366 great questions like this. So, again, I hope that you all could see it. What does respect look like when you're talking about money with somebody who has less money than you?
Hmm. I think for me,
I love these cards. I love these.
re-
I love these
respect would look like, not diminishing the value or the purpose or the um, what money can do or what money is for. Um, a lot of times people will think, if there's a discrepancy between how much you make and they make, and I've heard this a lot. Well, you make this, this, and this. I only make this, this, and this. Money is relative. We have heard lots of stories about somebody working as a parking lot attendant or something, quote unquote, menial job that invested their money and was a millionaire or, multimillionaire by the time they retired. Um, so you have to respect money as a tool for what it can do. And you decide the purpose for where you want what you want the money to do.
Right.
Mhm.
That's a great question. That's I love this question because it changes the way people think about others in context of money. This is based on
Mhm.
community, by the way. This is a community-based question. I'm going to ask you one more question from here. I'm going to give it all away, but I am going to have you pick a card. Pick a card, my dear, any card. Let's offer five more. You ready? You ready? You have
Uh,
pink,
yeah, the pink one on the end.
the pink one on the
No,
end, this one here.
yes.
All right. Ooh. Ooh, I like this one. I love these cards, guys. I'm so excited. All right. So let me see if you all could see this question. What role does dignity play in how you spend or share your money? That's a
Mm.
good question, right?
Mm.
What role does dignity play in how you spend or share your money?
Mm. Let me think for a second.
All right. And imagine you're having this conversation with your family around the dinner table, or you're on a date with your loved one, and you pull out your nice little blue box, your blue and gold box, and you say, okay, baby, let's have this discussion now. And you tell them pick a card or any card, right? So this is a great question for you. What role does dignity play in how you spend or share your money? It's a question based on strength and esteem.
Mm. I think it plays a very um, significant role. If
Uh-huh.
you're going to respect money,
Yeah.
you're not going to spend it frivolously.
Yes.
Um, like I was talking to somebody recently that had came into some, or they knew they were going to be getting some money soon. And I
Yes.
said, okay, have you mapped out how you're going to spend it or designate it?
That's a good question.
And they were like, oh, I'll probably pay some bills. I'll probably save some. I'll probably do a trip or something. I said, okay, you need to be able to account for every penny of how that money is going to be spent. Or else it just, money kind of just disappears if you don't designate it to where it's supposed to go. Um, so to me, that's how you know, have that dignity with spending money. You respect it.
Do you think that money is like alive? Does it respond to you as if it was a living thing?
I definitely believe that. Money is a tool, it's energy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think when Mr. T brought up that alignment, energy, frequency, and vibrations, oh my God, I love that. That just
Oh
like hit
yeah,
home
me
for
too.
me.
Me too.
Because I believe that, he says it all the time, and I believe it. Money is the easiest thing to make.
Yes. Yes, it
You
is.
can call money, you can attract money to you.
Absolutely.
You can manifest money, but it's
Absolutely.
not about just saying the words, it's doing the work
Right.
and then being receptive for it to come and not blocking it. Um,
That's a big one. Not
yeah.
blocking it. Because it seems like even when the money comes, our job is to now know how to receive it, right? What are
Hmm.
some examples that you found of people blocking money when it comes to you mentoring traders? What kind of things do they do that means that they're blocking the money? Why I'm asking you this is so that new traders, especially, can look out for this in the future so they'll know, hey, oh, I'm in money blocking behavior right now. Let me stop.
Hmm.
What are some
Um,
examples?
some examples would be, the way you talk about money.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of times people will say, I'm broke. That's a money block.
It is. It is, right?
You're telling money not to come to you because you're accepting and receiving being broke.
Yes, that's true.
Uh, uh, another thing I hear a lot of times people say is, I can't afford that. And I retrain myself to say, how can I afford that? And figure out a way to make it happen. I
Yes.
may not be able to buy it tomorrow, but I know I can figure out a way to buy it eventually if it's something that I really want.
Absolutely. So
Mhm.
it's more of the mindset when you don't have the cash that you want, what you say and what you think that prevents you or allows you to receive what it is you're looking for or hoping for, right? And
Absolutely.
and so it's very challenging for some people to not despair when it comes to when it comes to not having the money, because the pressure of not having money, when they feel like, hey, those bills are crazy, those bills
Hmm.
are high. I don't know w- how I could say that I'm not broke when I feel so broke. How do they change the feelings around lack and not just the words?
I think for me, that goes back to that faith that I learned growing up in a religious home. Um, I was taught to call things out as though they already exist. Um, I don't know how to really articulate that. Is that a good enough answer?
It is. It is
Okay.
because it's I mean, it's more of in the spirit than, yeah, it's hard to
Hmm.
articulate. I think it takes practice,
Hmm.
and I think it takes a little bit of courage, I would say.
Yes.
And it's not about us so much talking about what's not true, but about us practicing optimism in the face of
Hmm.
challenges as opposed to pessimism, because it takes just as much energy to be downtrodden as it takes to be positive, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
And I think that once we practice optimism, it becomes easier to manage our emotions around that. Because I think there will always be a pressure with needing something and just not having it. But
Hmm.
when you're optimistic, I think it's like a pressure valve. You find a way to handle the pressure rather than to avoid the pressure. And that's how I see it. What do you think?
Hmm. I can see that. I agree with that. But just thinking, I think most people, when they are in a space of desperation, like for money, they're in survival mode,
Yeah,
and y-
exactly.
you got to get to a point
Mm-hmm.
where you can get past that and stop,
Yes,
just thinking about, oh, I got to eat today. I'm hungry today,
absolutely.
and think
Absolutely.
about how you're going to eat for the long term.
Yes, ma'am. That's exactly
Hmm.
what I'm talking about. I have
Hmm.
Sister Sandra has her hand up. She would like to ask you questions. Please go ahead, Sister Sandra. Can you unmute yourself? Are you able to do so?
I'm sorry, that was a mistake. I must have accidentally done it.
Well, now you
Um,
have a mistake tax. Check in with us. How's that? How are you doing? What's up? Sister Sandra is another DLTC trader, everybody. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi. Thanks
This
for
is
coming through tonight.
this is a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate hearing from Miss Karen. Um,
Yes.
there's a lot of questions that I held in my heart about trading and just as a new trader and dealing with that sense of loneliness and wanting connection and wanting to be in a relationship.
Yeah.
But I see what you're saying because it does take a lot of time and learning how to trade for me has helped to clarify even what my own personal values are. So when the man of you know that will enter my life, it's easier to have that conversation without a lot of tension. And
Yes.
um, so I appreciate that. So I don't have any questions. I just mistakenly raised my hand, but hello.
Thank you for paying the tax. Hello, hello, and welcome again. So we are let me check. I'm gonna see if there are any more questions in the Q&A. Guys, this is your final call to ask questions. We had such a wonderful session. Y'all can type questions in the chat or in the Q&A session. And while y'all are typing your questions, I'm going to give Mrs. Karen one more chance to ask a question. Y'all have secured your cards already? What? I see that y'all are already getting your cards for the Cool. Well, you're going to get your orders first. So once you all purchase these, they'll as soon as they hit the United States, they will be sent to your address. Please do remember to send me your address via my Gmail or via whether your team leader, your Abakuas team leader, send them the address as well. They'll get it to me. And make sure that you secure your cards in advance because we do have a limited shipment coming in. and they're already, some of them are already purchased. So if you want these cards to give your family, your friends for Christmas, do check the chat. I've given instructions on how to secure your cards. Believe me, they will reach you just like the trading course has reached you. I'm making sure that you receive your delivery. But Mrs. Karen, you're going to have a chance to ask one more question, to answer one more question. Which color would you choose? Which color? Let me see. How many
Uh,
cards do we have? We have five. We have one, two, three, four, and five.
I'll do number 5.
Five, the yellow one. This one is a balance card. So the question is, let's see if we could see it here. How do you go after what you want financially without disturbing somebody else's goals?
Hmm.
That's a good question, right? These are the kinds of questions that deepen relationships because they are so deep. They're simple, but they're so deep that they really make you stop and think. And you have one for every single day of the year, including leap years. So again, that question is, how do you go after what you want financially without disturbing somebody else's goals? Hopefully my
Uh,
camera is picking up this question well.
it is. I think for me, like the only person I can think that I might disturb their goals when it comes to finances is maybe Mr. Mutivas. Um, and I mean, we talk about that kind of stuff, uh, financial goals and goals in general and plans and what we want to do moving forward with our lives. Um, so it'd be kind of difficult for me to disturb his goals while we're doing since we talk about that kind of stuff.
Yes.
But I would imagine, I don't know, a lot of women have a well, I won't use the profanity word, but they have a separate account.
They do. They do. That's true.
So,
That's true.
that'd be one way to work on that
Mhm.
financial goal without
Mhm.
disturbing a spouse's goals. Hmm.
Do you think that a spouse could be disturbed in more than financial ways? Like, I know that when I pursue goals relentlessly, maybe my relationship with my husband has to take not a backseat, but I divide my energy. My energy goes into my goals, and then my energy goes into my relationship. If my relationship is my only focus, then my behavior might be slightly different. So
Hmm.
maybe spouse's goals might be to connect with you when your goal is to get that trade down to make sure you reach that financial goal for the month. So
Hmm.
perhaps I think in every relationship, goals don't always immediately flow like the same. Like sometimes you're going to have some goals and your husband is going to have other goals. Just like a man who works very hard, a woman might want a goal to be close to him or to get something done in her life, but she has to now put that on the back burner to take care of the children because he has to do something and
Hmm.
his goal is more urgent. So when your goals kind of supersede another person's goals in urgency in your mind, how do you prevent that from translating to real life such that it negatively affects your relationship?
I can see that in our relationship with time,
Yes.
because Mr. Mativa is so supportive.
Yeah.
That I like to make myself completely available to him on the
Mm-hmm.
weekends and what he wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have times like this that come up, a weekend event, and I'm like, I always, try to compromise if possible. I don't just schedule stuff without asking him or
Right.
discussing it with him first. I respect him in that way. And most of the time, he's so supportive. He was like, no problem, whatever.
I love that for you because a supportive partner is everything in life. And it really does
Mhm,
affect your wealth and your health and your
mm,
relationships with everybody else and everything else
absolutely.
as well. So
Mhm,
I am fascinated and intrigued by your journey. And I think where you started, you could have stayed, but you made a decision. And I think somehow at some point you said, this is not going to be the end of me. This is not going to be my destination. Like I'm going to push through. I'm going
mhm,
to not just take lemons out of life and have lemons. And I'm going to make sure that I find what it is I'm looking for in the context of all of the things I've ever wanted. That you never gave up. And that not just that you didn't give up, but you didn't become selfish in the process. You decided to use your opportunity to help others up, from your children to strangers. You've affected my family, you've affected Mrs. Tangia's family, you've affected Mrs. Monica's family. Many other people have had these experiences in life because of you, and because you did not allow life to defeat you and put you down. You allowed yourself to blossom and to flourish and to share that blossoming with others.
Mhm.
And I think that that is the true spirit of the Abacus. You have walked the walk. And so it makes perfect sense to me that you are free. And I hope that those of you all who attended tonight will see Mrs. Karen's example and see that it is entirely possible to have a history and to write your own ending, right?
Mhm.
Thank you so much for being with us. Do you want to say anything finally to everybody else before we?
Do we have anyone that's not already a trader that's considering joining? Is there anyone like that on the call?
That's a great question. Y'all could show with a show of hands if there's anybody who is not yet a trader. Hold on, let me see. I'm gonna check everybody. Yes, we have Elania Wright, Crystal Sims, Shantae, yes, and then Talina Hutton. We have Lafrida Hooper, Maya Harrison. We have a lot. Isaiah Liebert. So all of you all are now deciding to make the choice to trade. It's a pleasure to have you here. What would you like to say to them, Mrs. Karen?
I would like to ask them if anyone can chime in the comments. What is the hesitation for you?
That's a good question. So now the interviewee is the interviewer, and she's asked a very important question. I could allow you all to talk. You all could all talk if you wish. You can unmute yourself now. You have the ability to do so. Let's see, I'm
Hi,
making
Miss
sure.
Sharon.
Hello.
Hello.
So I don't have a hesitation. I am ready.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm just so honored to have you as my mentor.
Oh,
Oh, thank you.
congratulations. Thank you for coming through. And Sister Crystal Sims, you've put your hand up as well.
Yes, I am ready as well. I have
Yes.
enjoyed listening to your journey, and I have also signed
Congratulations.
up, currently listening to
Awesome.
the mastermind, and I love it. Oh my God, I love it.
Good, good, good. You're listening to Mastermind 2023?
Yes.
How far are you in the mastermind thus far?
So far, I've just completed self-sabotaging.
Very good.
Mhm.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Very good, very good. And so we've had people waiting on the orientation. Sister Bianca, she signed up. She's waiting on the orientation. I know Sister Shantae is with our team. She's getting ready. I'm going to allow everybody who has their hands up to talk. You all are able to unmute yourselves whenever you are ready, whenever you wish.
This is Kai. Can I ask one question, please,
Yes, of
Ms.
course.
Mutiva? So we just talked about a second ago, you were talking about the question on the card asked about not interrupting people, and we've been talking a little bit about support. So I'm ready to go. But being a single person, what is there a support system I should be creating for myself? I mean, I'm not meaning bringing in a spouse, a boyfriend, or anything like that, but what type of support do I need for
That's a good
myself
question.
in trading?
That's a good
Um,
question.
well, you have us in on our team, your team to help support you with Miss Deanna and myself and the other more seasoned traders on our team. So we will be there to support you. Um, for other people, I always say, especially if you're working and you have a family and time is an issue,
Yes.
look at what you can delegate, look at what you can outsource if you can afford it, like having somebody, a laundry service, Instacart to do your grocery shopping, things like that will save you a lot of time and energy that you can put into focusing on your learning the trade.
Yes.
Okay, thank
Mhm.
you.
People may not realize that you can get all kinds of support that is non-trading experience, I don't think that people who are not traders could give you any kind of verbal or emotional advice about being a great trader,
Mhm.
but they can support you in so many other ways. Like if they even believe in you, they can still decide, hey, I don't know nothing about this trading thing, but I'll help you with a load of laundry so you can focus on your class tonight. And that is support too. So even if you have family who's skeptical, tell them, look, I know you're skeptical about this, but if you love me, at least make sure my Mondays and Wednesdays are clear. Just help me with that. And then you'll see. Give me 6 months. Sometimes you have to negotiate with them, broker an agreement to have them support you for a certain amount of time so they could see the results. You say you don't have to sit in the class with me. You don't even have to listen to the mastermind right now. Just help me, watch my children for an hour and a half every Monday and Wednesday night. Mom, Dad, you all could help me with picking up my children from school on Wednesday evening, something like that. Support comes in
Mhm.
so many different colors, just like Mrs. Karen said. And it was huge. It was huge having that support. So maybe the support might not be so much advice on moral support, but you will get support in other ways. If your family really loves you, they shouldn't have too much of a problem. And being single, I mean, if you have relatives, that helps. And as Mrs. Karen said, if you have to hire the support, you may as well. Just consider it another part of your investment.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, I think that's going to be the starting point for a lot of us. It was for us as well. For me, yeah, my husband and I, we didn't have much of a family structure up here, but we got a lot of support in other ways. Hopefully,
Mhm.
our answers were helpful to you, Sister Crystal.
Yes,
Oh,
thank
Sister
you.
Kai. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so let's see. Any other questions before we sign off for the evening? Do you all have any other questions for Mrs. Karen? Now is the time to ask. This is a free woman. I have a question for you, Mrs. Karen. I forgot to ask you this. How did
Okay.
how did it feel when you had your first $1,000 day? Mrs. Karen is a very successful trader, so she has had days where she's made. I'm not even going to get into financial specifics, but I know for sure that she's made more than $1,000 in a day just trading. How was your first $1,000 day? What did you say when you hit
My
that?
first $1,000 day actually was by accident. I wasn't trying to get $1,000 a day.
Ah,
I
nice.
was swing trading,
Right.
and something had happened overnight, and the stock like jumped.
Mm,
And so when I woke up and saw it, I was like, "Oh my god!" Very nice surprise, very pleasant.
yes.
I
So
was very
swing
happy to see
trades.
that.
Swing trades, by the way, are guys are like trades like when you buy something today and you probably sell it Friday or next Friday. So it's not like 1 minute for another minute, but it's more like a week at a time or a couple
Mhm,
weeks. That's a swing trade. So that's when your
mhm,
trade is a little longer. You intend to get out a little later on. So that was
mhm.
a nice surprise. Did you tell your husband? What did he say?
I did tell him. He was like, "Oh, that's nice."
I
But
tell
just to encourage everyone starting out, I always say if you can make $1, you can make $10.
yes,
You
you
can make
can.
$100, you can make 1,000, you can make 10,000. It's all
Yes.
about that compounding and scaling up.
Yes, yes, yes.
Hmm.
And even though it might seem like you're making just a little bit in the beginning, you are building a foundation for incredible wealth. The thing is, you cannot have $100 without every individual dollar being part of that. If you are a dollar short, you do not have $100. So always, when you make like a dollar trading, be grateful for it. Don't think about the fact that, oh, that's not a lot of money. I'm not making money yet. Listen, compound and you will be seeing some money. Just
Hmm.
just be grateful for every dollar that comes your way because it's a dollar that you didn't have. It's a dollar that you didn't have to toil for or take abuse for or take silly orders for or leave your home to go and earn. It was just you and the markets gave you a dollar. That's a gift. That's a blessing, right? So $1 makes 10 and $10 makes 100, right? And $100 makes 1,000, and 1,000 makes 1,000,000. So you start with each dollar. Each dollar does matter. It is the
Yeah.
difference between 9 and 10. Yeah.
Hmm.
Thank you all. Thank you so much for coming through. Everybody, you all were a wonderful audience, a wonderful panel. You all have asked some really deep and amazing questions. It was such a pleasure to hear from you all tonight. Thank
Mhm.
you, thank you, thank you so much for coming out. Thanks for coming out to Freedom Series number 2. Mrs. Karen, thank you. We love you. We
My
appreciate you.
pleasure.
We're so grateful towards you. Thank you for sharing your journey of freedom with us. Good night, everybody. Thank you all for coming through. And we will see you all next month for Freedom Series number 3. Thanks so much. Thanks. Have a good evening, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.